Good morning, guys. It is a really good day here because here in the Midwest, it has decided to be nice and cool and crisp today. There's a high of 67 degrees and there's a chill in the air, and it's the first day that it's really starting to feel like fall. I believe this video is going to be going up on September 1st, so happy September. We are in the Burr months now, and these are my favorite months of the year, and I know a lot of other people feel the same. So today I wanted to share some of my favorite fall recommendations, movies, books, TV shows, and activities, just to help you have a cozy fall and to give you some ideas, whether you're a fall lover like myself or if you're someone who struggles with the change in seasons because you know it's going to be colder and darker, and I used to struggle with that a lot too. So I'm hoping wherever you are today on that spectrum that this video can bring you some joy. So get yourself a warm drink and just cuddle up and get ready for fall with me. The first thing I'm going to be talking about today are my favorite books that are cozy, a little bit spooky, and they just have those fall vibes, and they're perfect to read during the fall time. I'm a huge reader, and I was looking at my Goodreads list, and I really wanted to recommend some like feel-good cozy books along with some thrillers, and I found that I really only had like one cozy book recommendation and the rest are thrillers because that's just what I tend to gravitate toward. So if you are someone that has a lot of like cozy mysteries or other cozy books that would be good for fall, please leave your recommendations in the comments below, because this year I would love to dive into some of those more cozy books. So my first book recommendation is the only cozy book that I have on this list that's not also a little bit creepy, and that is The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. And this book is, it's definitely nothing earth-shattering as far as the plot goes or anything like that, but it's just like a Hallmark movie in book form. But it's not, a lot of the ones I read like that are like really horrible. It's not, it's a good writing, and it's just really cozy, feel good vibes. It's about a woman who lives in the city, and she ends up through a bunch of circumstances moving to the country in Scotland. And the reason I love it so much is just all of the cozy descriptions of the food and the landscape and everything like that. I've never wanted to move to Scotland more. So I definitely recommend that one, especially if you're not into the creepier books and you like something a little more cozy. It's like a bubble bath in book form. Like it's just a good escape book. I love it. I've read a couple other books by her. I actually can't even remember if this one takes place during the fall. But it's just good to read during that cozy time of year. There's like a sequel / spin-off to that book called The Bookshop on the Shore, I believe. And that one does take place in fall. That one I didn't like quite as much, but it was same vibes. It was really cozy and a great read. So I recommend those. And now moving into my thriller recommendations. I am not someone who likes things that are super dark, super scary. That's not me at all, but I do like a little bit of creepy vibes. I like to just be a little bit on edge while I'm reading and not like completely terrified. So I think the rest of these books fit that bill. The first two I'm going to talk about are by my favorite author, and that is Riley Sager. He is just really good at creating an atmosphere. I feel like all of his books have like a different setting, and he makes them all unique, but they really immerse you in the atmosphere. He also is an author that likes to throw in a lot of plot twists, which I enjoy. Sometimes they can go a little too far in my opinion, but it's really fun when you're reading to know that what you're reading is probably not actually the case of what's happening behind the scenes, and then everything kind of gets revealed at the end and you can see if your predictions were correct, and I love that type of reading experience. His very favorite book of mine, which I don't hear a lot of people say is their favorite, but my favorite book by him is The Last Time I Lied, but that one is more a summer book. It's about a summer camp, so I would save that one and read it during the summertime. But there are two that I think are great to read in the fall. The first one is Lock Every Door. This book is so good. I just could not put it down. It was one of those books I was thinking about later, like while I was going through my day, taking care of my kids and everything. I was always in the back of my mind just thinking like, I cannot wait till I can sit down and read this book later. It takes place in New York City, and I don't know why, but that's just like the epitome of autumnal, cozy, kind of creepy reading, and movies too. I just feel like New York City is a really good setting for that. It's about this woman who, she's kind of like an apartment sitter in this big, huge, fancy apartment building right in the middle of Manhattan. I believe it's Manhattan. It's been a couple years since I read it. But, and she's getting paid all this money to be this apartment sitter. And it's kind of a little bit fishy because it's like, okay, it's this beautiful apartment. Why are they offering so much money? And as the story goes on, you kind of find out everything is not what it seems. And it's just really, really suspenseful. It's really hard to predict what's actually going on. And I love a book like that. And I really recommend it during the fall, especially because of those, the New York setting. The next Riley Sager book that I'd recommend is The Only One Left. And this one came out just this past summer. I just finished it a few weeks ago. And it's another one that the setting really makes the book. It's kind of like a Lizzie Borden retelling. I don't want to give a lot of info because I don't want to give anything away. But it does take place in this big old mansion that's kind of falling apart. And it's right on the edge of a cliff with the ocean down below. And there's a lot of characters in it, and you don't really know who to trust. And it's just the perfect book to read on a chilly autumn evening with a candle lit and just, take in every page. It's really, the ending was a little ridiculous, I will say, but the experience of reading the rest of the book was so good that it didn't ruin it for me. So that's another great one. Really, any Riley Sager books except Survive the Night, did not like that one. The rest of them are really great and creepy and spooky to read during this season. Another author that writes great thrillers that have really unexpected twists is Alice Feeney. She's another one of my favorites. And the one of her books that I would recommend the most during this time of year is Daisy Darker. It's about this family. They all kind of have secrets. They don't have the best relationship. And their grandma is turning 80 and she lives, this is another one where the setting makes it. Their grandma's house is on an island, and during certain points of the day and night, the tide comes up and they can't get to shore. They're kind of stuck there. So that adds like a whole element to the book. It kind of makes them feel like they're cut off from the rest of the world, which makes it more creepy in my opinion. So anyway, they all gather for their grandma's 80th birthday, and then people just start, we'll say, disappearing. And we have to kind of figure out what's going on, who's behind it. And it takes place at Halloween time. So that one's another great one. It's not too scary, but it's just scary enough. It kind of reminds me of And Then There Were None. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a retelling or if it's just kind of similar, but definitely gives me those vibes. So it's one that I'd highly recommend to read at this time of the year as well. Another author that I like to read at this time of year is Ruth Ware. I will say she's a little hit or miss for me. I've read books that I absolutely love, and then I've read other ones that were kind of just slogs and really hard to get through. But the first one that I really enjoyed was The Turn of the Key, and this is based on The Turn of the Screw, which is the book that The Haunting of Bly Manor is also based on. So I've actually read both of the books. The Turn of the Screw was very wordy. I did not enjoy it, but The Turn of the Key was really good. I liked it a lot. It's about this nanny, and she's moving into this house that has all these like high-tech things that it can do. It reminded me of Smart House if you are a 90s or early 2000s kid that watched the Disney Channel. But so anyway, something ends up happening to one of the children that's under her care, and she is blamed for it, ends up incarcerated. And the whole book, I believe, is like a letter to her lawyer, or kind of explaining what happened. And it's spooky. You're thinking, is this something supernatural? Is it something else? And you don't find out till the end. And that one was really good. Another one by Ruth Ware that I liked was The It Girl. So this is about a group of college students at Oxford. So you have all those dark academia vibes that are always fun to read about in the fall. Anyway, one of them ends up murdered, and the whole book is about figuring out that mystery of what happened. And there are two timelines you're reading. It kind of jumps back and forth from when they were in college to later when they're all grown up. And that was another Ruth Ware one that I really enjoyed. It was kind of a slow burn, but I liked it. I thought the reveal at the end was worth it. And I actually did not predict the ending, which I read so many thrillers that I feel like I've gotten to the point where I can predict them pretty well. But this one kind of caught me off guard. And I cannot make a fall recommendations video without recommending the Harry Potter series. I personally really like the illustrated books. My daughter and I have read the first 3 together. We have the 4th one. It's so long. I'm just like overwhelmed thinking about reading that one out loud to her, but we'll get to it eventually. The 5th one is also out, but I don't think the 6th and 7th have been released yet. But the illustrations are so beautiful, and they, you know, Harry Potter just has those slightly creepy vibes and the magical vibes, and what better time to read that than close to Halloween and during the fall. And then the very last book that I have on my list is an older book. Most people that enjoy thrillers have probably already read this one. It's the first thriller I ever read, and it's what started my love of thrillers, and it is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This is also a movie, which I liked the movie too. But I hope I'm not just remembering it better than it actually is, because it was the first thriller that I ever read. I haven't read it in probably 10 years, so it has been a while, but I just remember this was before I was a huge thriller fan. And now when I read a thriller, the entire time I'm just thinking, ooh, what's really going on? What's going to happen? There's going to be a twist. Here's what I think it is. I cannot shut that part of my brain off. And that's part of the fun of reading a thriller. However, when I read that book, I was just taking it at face value and just consuming it. And there were a couple of twists that really caught me off guard, and that is what made the book for me. So highly recommend that. I'm sure if you like thrillers, like I said, you've probably already read it, but if you haven't, you have to. It's really good. And now moving on to my fall movie recommendations. Some of these are quintessential fall movies that I'm sure will be on every list, but they're so good, I can't not recommend them. So I have a few movies that are more for adults, and then since I am a mom, a lot of the movies I watch these days are children's movies. I have a few family movie recommendations as well. Now, I already recommended the Harry Potter books, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time recommending the Harry Potter movies as well, but obviously those are great. All of them are great to watch during the fall time too. So we'll just kind of skip past those. And the next one is one that is my favorite movie of all time. I think every frame of this movie, every line in this movie, every song in this movie is perfect. There is not one thing that I think needs changed about this movie. And even though you'll find it on every fall recommendations list, it is You've Got Mail. I saw this movie first when I was probably in 8th grade when it first came out. I remember we rented it, and my sister and I just literally watched it over and over for like the 2 days we had it until we had to return it. And since then, it has been my favorite movie. And the movie does take place, it goes from like fall all the way up until spring or summer. But for some reason, it's just always those first few beginning scenes in the movie during the fall time that I feel like it gets kind of known for. And nothing can give me cozier vibes than turning on that movie and seeing the shop around the corner and all of those, again, with New York City, just all of those fall images. And it literally, like, it just gives you all the feels. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. I'm sure you've probably seen it and you probably feel the same way. If not, then that's okay too. But just the perfect movie, and the perfect movie to curl up with on a nice warm Saturday afternoon in the fall and just escape while you watch it and enjoy all those cozy vibes. Another movie that also has Meg Ryan in it is When Harry Met Sally. And that is a great movie too, another great chick flick. And when I think of When Harry Met Sally, I think of all those images with the changing leaves on the trees, and I love romantic comedies. Side note, why do they not make romantic comedies like that anymore? I feel like everything has to be so serious. Like, I go to the movies to escape, not to like have more stress in my life. But anyway, When Harry Met Sally is another great one to watch during the fall time. Okay, this next one is not like a feel-good movie at all, and but it's still, I always think of fall when I think of it because it does take place during the fall, and the images in it are cozy and beautiful, but the subject matter is just a little heavier, and that is Stepmom. So if you haven't seen it, it's about this mom who has cancer, and she and her husband are divorced, and her kids have a stepmom now, and because of her cancer, she's basically getting ready for her stepmom to take on more of the mom role. I don't even know how to talk about this without being like super depressing, but you get the idea. It's really sad, but it's a good movie, and it does take place during the fall. So if you want to watch a movie that's a tearjerker, which, you know, sometimes you're just in the mood, then I would recommend Stepmom. Another movie that is great in the fall time. It's a mystery, but it's not too creepy. So that's what I like. I'm not into horror, but I do like mysteries. So this movie is Knives Out. And it is, like I said, it's a mystery movie. It's about this man who is an author. He ends up passing away, and then his whole family is kind of gathered for like the funeral and figuring out the inheritance and all that kind of thing at this huge estate, which again, the setting is part of the charm of the movie. And somebody hires a detective to figure out what really happened to this author. So that is a great one. I believe I don't know if it's a spin-off or a sequel or what, but it's called Knives Out Glass Onion. I have not watched that yet, so that's on my list for this fall. And this one, if you like musicals, then you would like this movie. It's not one that you hear a lot about. I really enjoyed it when I first saw it, and that is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I've seen the musical too on stage, and I think the movie's a little bit darker. It's kind of twisted. Like, I thought it was just gonna be this little musical. I didn't realize how dark it actually is, but it's like dark comedy. They make it kind of funny too. But yeah, it's just a fun one to watch at Halloween time. And now moving into the more family type movies. The first one that we watch every year is It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. This one's a classic. It's short. My daughter loved it even when she was super, super little. But it's just a great classic. Another one that I probably don't need to name, but you know, gotta have it in there because it's so great. Another one that takes place in the fall that I think is great to watch during this time of year is Homeward Bound. Another one that's a classic. I was a 90s kid, so I grew up watching this movie. I think I cried at the end every time. I've watched it with my kids now, and I cry as an adult when I watch it too, but it takes place in the fall. I believe the end of the movie is like around Thanksgiving time, so I always get in the mood to watch it this time of year. And one of our family's favorite movies is Coco. My daughter was probably 5 when this movie came out, and she fell in love with it. It's just so colorful. It's about the Day of the Dead, and it's another one that I cry. I don't care how many times I see this movie. There's that one part, and you know what I'm talking about at the end, if you've seen it, every time I bawl. And I mean, like, the first time I saw it, I'm sitting there in the movie theater bawling, like sobbing. It's so good though. It's because it's about the Day of the Dead. It's a great one to watch around this time of year, but you know, any time of year too. It's just so good. One of Pixar's best in my opinion, and they have some good ones, so that's saying a lot. And I have just a few TV show recommendations too. Obviously I have to say Gilmore Girls. That's another one you'll find on all of these lists, but is there anything more perfect for fall time? I loved this show when it first came out. It felt like it was fall all the time in Stars Hollow, and just the cutest little town. And I just can picture like different fall scenes in my head, and it gives me those same You've Got Mail vibes that just make me feel good. If I'm having a bad day, I put on that show and it's a really good escape. Along those same lines is Dawson's Creek, another show that I loved when it first came out. Very melodramatic. I don't know if kids these days, I'm getting old, but I don't know if they would watch it now and think it's like super stupid and cheesy, but I loved it. And I feel like there's a lot of like back to school episodes, homecoming dance episodes, Halloween episodes that are really fun and cozy for fall. Another one that I have to recommend is Stranger Things. This is one of those TV shows that it's, especially the last season that was just out like a year, I think it was season 4, it got almost a little bit too creepy for me. The first few seasons weren't at all. They were fine. It was just the right amount of creepiness for me. But the last season, it felt almost like this season long like slasher movie. It was creepy, but it was also my favorite season. So yeah, it's just, I'm sure most people have probably already seen it, but it is so good. And if you're a wimp like me, it's one of those scarier shows that probably won't bother you too much. When I was like a teenager and in my 20s, I would watch the scariest movies all the time. And I finally realized like I don't like scary movies, so I stopped watching them. But this one was one that I could handle. I will say that's when we watched that movie last summer, my husband and I, and we would watch an episode, and then my baby, she was like 9 months old at the time, would wake up in the middle of the night and need to be fed, and I would just be sitting there in the dark feeding her, like scared to look over my shoulder. It did give me those like creepy feelings. It stuck with me a little while. Season 4 did anyway, but so good, so fun to watch. And I think the first couple of seasons happen like around Halloween time, so that's perfect. Another show that's cozy, and I don't even know why it's giving me like fall feelings, because it's been a while since I watched it, and I'm not sure that it's like a huge like fall show, but it's a cozy show. It's a show that you can just turn on. You don't have to think, you don't have to analyze, you just take it at face value and let yourself escape into it, and that is Heart of Dixie. And it's super cheesy, but I love it. It's about this woman who moves to this really small town out in the country because their doctor needs help, and she's a doctor, and you just kind of get to know the townspeople and fall in love with all the characters, and everything is just really, like, all the scenery is really pretty and everything. And I live out in the country too, so I really enjoy that show. It's been a while since I watched it, but I should rewatch it actually. I'm kind of getting in the mood since I'm talking about it. And then probably my current #1 pick for the fall, as far as TV shows goes, is Only Murders in the Building. Oh my gosh, I love this show so much. I binged the whole thing, the whole first 2 seasons last fall. I could not stop watching it. It's all about a murder mystery. Again, I must have a thing for big fancy apartment buildings in New York City. But it takes place in the Arconia, which is a big fancy apartment building in New York City. And you follow these 3 characters that are unlikely friends who kind of join together because of this murder that happens in the building. And they come together to start a podcast to try to solve the mystery. The first 2 seasons are fully out on Hulu. The 3rd one just started a few weeks ago, and they release it week by week. I'm kind of waiting till all the episodes are available so I can just binge it. So I have not started the 3rd season yet, but it's just so cozy, so many fall vibes. I just love like the scenery, all the imagery, the sound, the music. I love the characters, and even the way they dress, like it's all just super cozy. And I love trying to figure out the mystery, trying to figure out who did it. Cannot recommend it more. I love that show. So those are all my recommendations for books, movies, and TV shows. Hopefully I suggested something new that you will check out and enjoy. The last thing I want to do today is make a fall bucket list for myself and my family. I'm going to make it on Canva, and I will show it when I'm all done and share some of our favorite fall activities. And hopefully that will give you some ideas of what you could do this fall too. All right, well, I just spent like 10 minutes on Canva making this. I do have Canva Pro, and I love all of like the watercolor looking pictures. So these are the things that I would like for our family to do this fall. Drink apple cider, watch a Halloween movie, go to a football game, carve a pumpkin, bake a fall treat, jump in a pile of leaves, go through oh, I gotta reprint it. Gotta get rid of that T. Whoops. I proofread it too and I didn't see that. Go through a corn maze, go on a hayride, and have a bonfire. Darn it, I used a piece of cardstock too, wasted a piece. I'm going to fix that, reprint it, and then hang it on the fridge. Well, I fixed the typo, and now it's hanging on our fridge, and we can check things off as we complete them. So I will try to update this in future videos and show how much we get accomplished this fall. Typically, we do all of these things during a fall season, so hopefully this year will be no different. You smiling. On that note, someone just woke up from her nap, huh? Yeah, are you excited about fall?
Nana.
Nana? Nana was here earlier, huh? You don't, and Sissy, you don't know what fall is, but you're gonna love it. We're gonna carve pumpkins and have so much fun, okay? Yeah, you see pumpkins on my computer over there, huh? All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Welcome to September. She's like, who are you talking to? And I'm going to be sharing so much more fall content, so please follow along. Thanks. Can you say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Can you blow my kiss?
Mwah.
Mwah.